Hello, Accounting 1. We are back at it here, and we are in 12-3 in our book, and it's 5.02 in our curriculum, and we are learning another aspect of the payroll register and what we have to do when we pay our employees. So today we're in 12-3, work together. 12-3, work together. This has three parts to it: payroll register, total the columns, and earning records. 12-3 in the book begins on page 358, and you will see payroll register there on 358. It looks kind of scary, but you just got to take it one step at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this, and I'm going to do what it tells me in the order that it tells me. Okay, so this is a payroll register for Judy's Fashions. Complete the payroll register for the semi-monthly, that means twice a month, pay period ending July 15. So I got to put July 15 in here. And July 15 in here. Okay. Use the federal income tax withholding tables in lesson 12-2 of your textbook. So right here, we have Edward and Janice, and we have to figure out how much their federal income tax is. So I'm start with Edward. He's married. So this is the tax table that is on page 354. And his earnings, let me pull this up a little bit. His total earnings are right here. He totally earned $1,432.50. $1,320 of that was regular time, and then he had overtime of $112.50. Okay, so that gives him a total earnings of $1,432.50, and this is what we call gross earnings. Gross earnings. Gross just means that you don't have anything, any deductions as of yet. All right, so I'm gonna use pen and just give you some notes up here. So we're going to be using this amount, $1,432.50. Now, let me make that a little better. $1,432.50. And we're going to be using for Janice, we're going to be using the $971.75. Okay, so I have to go and look for Janice. I have to look for single with one deduction, and for Edward, I have to look at married with two allowances to be able to get these numbers. Okay, so going to page, I'm going to take care of Edward first. He made $1,432, and just to let you know, this the range for him is 1420 to 1440. So everyone who makes in this range, which he's there, and has two allowances, they will all have a tax, federal tax of $61. And then I go over to 353 and I look up the range for Janice. And Janice is made 971 971. So her range is 960 to 980. And she has one deduction. So everyone who makes their money in this range, everyone is going to have to pay $76. Okay. And that's all we have to do with the chart. The charts are done now. Now it's a matter of doing using our calculator. And I'm going to erase these. We don't need those anymore. And we don't need this anymore. But we are still going to use these totals. Okay. Now, it tells me right here that Social Security tax is my earnings. So E for earnings times 0.062. Okay. Then it tells me for my Medicare, it tells me that it's going to be earnings, big E for earnings, times 0.0145. That's how I'm going to find these numbers. Okay. So let's do that math. So right here, I'm doing for Edward, 1432.50, his gross earnings, times 0.062 equals. And I have to round it to the nearest penny, okay? So that makes it $88.82. So for Janice, it's the $971.75, her earnings, her gross earnings, times the 0.062. And I have for her, she's going to be paying $60.25 into her Social Security account. Now we're going to go to the Medicare. Gross earnings for Edward times 0.0145. $20.77. And then for Janice, 971.75 times 0.0145. And she has to pay $14.09 Medicare. All right, so need to let you know, make sure that you understand. Get my pen working here. This is what we call gross earnings, and then this over here is net. Net always means after deductions. Gross always means before deductions. Even when you're talking about your profit, you have gross profit, you have net profit. Okay, so gross is before any deductions. If you'll notice, this whole section right here is deductions. It says deductions. So all of these are deductions. Says neither employee has reached the tax base. Withholds $60 for health insurance and $15 for the Roth IRA for each employee. So that means that each employee, out of their paychecks, they have to pay $60 for their health insurance. And for every paycheck they have, they're putting in $15 to their Roth IRA. And that's the retirement plan. So once they retire, they have some money to live off of. And we just took that straight from the instructions there. The voluntary deductions are not eligible to be deducted from total earnings to calculate payroll taxes. Okay, so now total. And this is total deductions. Notice it's still in the same section, total deductions. So we have to add up all of Edward's deductions, and then we have to add up all of Janice's deductions and put them in there. All right, so let's add those up. So for Edward, I got 245.59. I'll add it a second time just to make sure I got it right. 61.88.82, 20.77. Yep, I got the same thing. Okay, so now I'm going to Janice and add hers up. For Janice, I got 225.34. And I'm going to add it a second time to make sure that I was right. I'd rather add it up a second time right now while I'm here than have to come back and find my mistake later. Okay, I got the same thing. Okay, so this is their total deductions. And deduction means to deduct, to take away. All right. So now we're going back to our total earnings, and we're deducting their total deductions to get their net pay. Another name for net pay is take home. All right. This is your take home pay. All right. Just make sure you understand that. That's your take home pay. But it's after deductions. So for Edward, it's $1432.50 minus his deductions of $245.59. So he gets to take home $1186.91. Now, I'm going to do it a second time just to make sure, because I don't want to mess up and not pay him enough. I don't want to mess up and not give him what he's owed. Okay? Because if I do that, it could make the difference of whether it makes his house payment or his rent payment or his electricity payment or car payment or if he eats. So you want to make sure you are accurate. $1432.50 minus $245.59. And again, I got 1186.91. Okay, good. So now I got to do the same thing for Janice. 971.75, what she earned, minus her deductions of 225.34. And for Janice, I get that she's taken home 746.41. I'm going to do it a second time to make sure that I'm right. I don't want Janice to not make her car payment, be in a bind. 746.41. Okay, so that's what I got for that one. Okay, so we're going to grade step one, see what they say about it. Okay, we'll take all this stuff out. We don't need it anymore. Erase. And we got all green checks. That's good. Okay, so if you're not sure about that, go back and watch the video again. Going on. Total the columns. And that's exactly what it means. We got to add down and get the totals for each column. Okay, so let's add them up. 2240. $164.25. $2404.25. Now, I just added that down here to get this total. Now, I'm going to check it by adding these two totals to see if I actually get that total. 2240 plus 164.25. I did. So adding down gives me totals for this row, but adding my regular plus my overtime earnings also gave me this number. So I was able to check it to make sure I was right. Okay, so now we're going to do the section of deductions. 61 plus 76 is 137. $149.07. $34.86. I hope that my fingers hit the right numbers. You know, sometimes they do. Most of the times they do, but sometimes they miss. All right, now adding down the column. $470.93. Now I'm going to add across these totals. 137, 149.07, 34.86, 120, and 30. And it also gives me 470.93. I added these across. Okay, so now we got to get this last one. I'm going to go down. 1186.91 plus 746.41. And for right here, I get 1933.32. I'll check it by doing this. 2404.25 minus 470.93. And I got the same amount, 1933.32. Check that. I got green checks. Good. We're going to go to the next step. Next step, earnings record. So with this, here's the payroll register we just did that included Edward and Janice. Okay. And then it says, enter the July 15 payroll information on Mr. Johnson's quarterly earnings record. So each employee has one of these, like an index card, that tells just for this employee what they've earned. Okay. Mr. Johnson is an employee number 2, which is already filled out, and it already has his name on it. Rate of pay is $15 per hour, so we have to put that in here. 15.00. Social Security number, and it already has it on there. His position is sales manager, so we have to type that in. Sales manager. Okay. Accumulated earnings at the end of the second quarter are 17,218. So right here, 17,218.00. Now let me explain this. This says earnings record for the quarter ended. If we're beginning the quarter, let me write this up. I'll write it for you. Okay, so in a calendar year, your first quarter is January through March. Your second quarter is April to June. Third quarter is July to September. Fourth quarter is October to December. A quarter means a fourth. Quarter means a fourth. So a fourth of $1 is an actual round quarter, right? A fourth of a year is 3 months. Okay, so a quarter means a fourth of whatever it is. This is a new, this is a new record for this new quarter. Okay, so we know that for Edward to get paid on the 17th, July 17th, this was the time that he worked from July 1 to the 15th. This is paying him for his time that he has already worked from July 1st until the 15th. July is in the third quarter, and the third quarter earning record for quarter ended is September. And looking at the calendar, September has 30 days in it. Okay, so that's how. Now you'll hear companies talking about their profits for the third quarter, profits for the fourth quarter, profits for the year, whatever, payroll for the first quarter. They keep their records this way. So when you're talking about the quarter of a year, that's what you're talking about, a fourth of the calendar year. Okay, that's how I got September here. And again, he's getting paid on July 15th. That means that this is when he's getting paid for the time that he worked from July 1st to the 15th. Okay, let me erase that stuff for the quarters. Don't need that anymore. Okay. So we need to find out his marital status and his withholding allowances. And that was up here. It says he's married with 2 allowances. So we're going to fill that in. Married 2. Okay. Now it wants his regular hours for this pay period, his regular earnings, and his regular earnings is right here, $13.20. $13.20. His overtime hours or time money was $112.50. And then total right here, $14.32.50. $14.32.50. I could have just added those up too. Federal income tax, we found out, is $61. And his Social Security tax, we came up with $88.82. And his Medicare tax that he's paying, we came up with $20.77. His health insurance is costing him $60 a month, and retirement was $15 a month. So now his total deductions for this pay period, $245.59. $245.59. His net pay, again, it's his gross pay, $1432.50 minus his deductions, $245.59. And his net pay is $1186.91. $1186.91. Last box that we have here is accumulated earnings. Accumulated earnings. I'm going to use a pen again. Accumulated means all that you've had added up until now. So this is from January until this date, until the 15th. All that he's earned. And this is also gross earnings. So you're going to add this 17,218 to your 14,3250. It's wanting gross earnings for Edward. So we got to add it up. 14,3250 he made. That was his gross earnings for this pay period, plus his gross earnings since January, 17,218, and I got $18,650.50. Remember, it's money we're talking about, so you have to put the zero on it and make it 50 cents. Now, I'm going to add it a second time just to be sure I'm right. My fingers didn't hit a wrong number somewhere. 18,650.50. Yep. Okay. So this tells the boss gross earnings for his year for Edward. Not take-home pay. Not take-home pay, but his gross earnings. All right, so take all this out. Okay. We filled in all the boxes, so I'm going to grade final step. And let's see how we did. We got all checks. That's what we want. So this record for Edward is complete for this pay period. We'll add the rest of them as those pay periods come in for this quarter, and then he'll get another card for the fourth quarter. All right, guys, I appreciate your time. Stay well and stay safe. See you next time.